Hi everyone, my name is Griz. Creepy name, right? Yeah, I don't like it either. It sounds kind of rude, but it doesn't really go with my looks. I'm actually very beautiful. Before you say the opposite about me, I'll beat you to it. What you see on me now, the shabby clothes, the messy hair, the black fingernails, the uneven eyebrows, it's all fake. Here, my nose. See how ugly it is? Whoop, it's a fake too. It's a fake. Why am I doing this? Oh, my friends, it's not me. It's my mother. She does everything to make me ugly. Any idea why she does that? Write in the comments and then we'll compare if you guessed it or not. You're in over your head, aren't you? Why am I beautiful after all? Here is the real me. My name was supposed to be Amelia. That's what my father wanted to name me when he was still alive. He and my mom loved me a lot, but we were having a hard time, and then my dad passed away, and since then, my mother never recovered from her grief. Moreover, she became prejudiced against me. She demanded that I stop dressing well, washing my face, and even brushing my teeth, but I still took regular care of myself. I couldn't do otherwise. An old friend of Dad's named Uncle Will often came to our house. He was 1 year younger than Dad, so rich but still single. There was no way he could choose a woman to marry. Everyone told him it was high time. At his age, people were already raising grandchildren. Uncle Will understood everything, but he was a loner in that respect. He was wonderful to me. He never came to visit us empty-handed and always gave me good presents, but my mother wouldn't accept anything and forbade me to either. I understood it hurt her pride because he was rich and we were poor. As I grew older, my uncle came less often. When I asked about him, my mother would start screaming, like it was none of my business where he was or what he was doing. But on those rare days when he would come, she would change her face even more and change me. She would immediately take me into the bathroom and mold this whole old masquerade. I had no idea why she was doing this. One day, I decided to resist her and told her I wouldn't wear it. Then she threatened that if I didn't, she would shave my hair and scar my face. Then I wouldn't have anything to put on. It scared me. I cried. Why? Why did she hate me so much? And then it started spreading. She didn't only do this at home, but at school and while visiting relatives. Children didn't like me. No one wanted to play with me. They called me a scarecrow and wouldn't come within 1.5 meters of me. I used to come home and cry. Calm down, that's enough. You've got nothing to whine about. Beautiful people have a lot of problems, but when you're ugly and alone, you have less problems. You'll thank me later. But we have a different situation. You know that I am beautiful. You know that I am, and you make me ugly on purpose. Why do you make me ugly? Are you jealous of me, Mom? What? Don't be ridiculous. I'm your mother, and I know what's best. This is best? I have no friends. I have no right to choose. How can you do this to me? If my father were alive, I'd be happy. Why did he die and not you? I said it in the heat of the moment, and I didn't even realize what I'd said. Do you know what my mother said to me? If your father were alive and I died, you would have been in a much worse case, because your father was an idiot. How dare you say that about him? I hate you! I slammed the door and ran outside, climbing a tree and crying even more. Everything inside me was shrinking with resentment and anger. I couldn't understand why she hated me so much. After sitting there for a couple of hours, I realized that I wasn't ready to go back to her. I realized that I deserved a better life and that I had to get out of there. But where to? Exactly. Knock, knock. Uncle Will, open the door. Hello, Uncle.
And who is this lovely girl?
It's me, Griz.
Griz? What happened to you? Why at this hour? Oh, come on in. I'll make you some tea.
I sat down with him in the living room. He fed me well. Then we had a cup of tea and sat by his fireplace. I took a couple of sips and told him that I had nowhere else to go, so I came to him.
So your mother set up this whole masquerade?
Yes.
Oh, I'm very sorry for you, my darling. But let me tell you something. Your father and I were best friends once, you know? When he died, I made a promise to myself that I would be there for you no matter what. I used to visit you a lot when you were growing up. You were getting prettier before my eyes every year, and then your mother chased me away one day. You were in school at the time. She told me not to come back, threw all my presents out the door, and threw mud on me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Uncle Will. My mother has changed a lot since Dad died.
I believe you, but I don't believe her. I understand it's been hard for her all these years, but I don't wish you any harm. I have a big house. There's plenty of room for everyone.
I was glad I went to him. I was given the most spacious and bright room in the house. The maid made everything ready for bed, and I took a bath and fell asleep. In the morning, they brought me breakfast in bed, and an hour later, Uncle Will called me into the living room, which was filled with boxes.
This is all for you.
All of it? What's in them?
You do the unpacking.
I threw myself at the boxes. There was all kinds of stuff in there. Clothes, perfume, handbags, shoes, cosmetics, jewelry, phones, headphones, and other stuff. My eyes darted around and I flew over to my uncle and gave him a big hug. I was so happy. I wanted to kiss him on the cheek, but he turned inadvertently and I kissed him on the lips. It embarrassed me and I pulled away abruptly, and he said he had to go to work.
Have fun. Here is your personal driver. Here's a money card. You can spend as much as you want.
He left, and I pinched my wrists to wake myself up, but it wasn't a dream. Anyway, I got undressed right away and took the driver with me. I drove all over town, eating at fancy places, taking pictures, singing songs, walking around. I couldn't believe I had such a life. A week went by like that, then another week. I got bored and started to miss my mom, but my uncle reacted strongly to my offer to go to her, even for an hour. He said she was a wicked witch and didn't deserve my attention. The driver wouldn't go there either and wouldn't take his eyes off me. I began to suspect something was wrong. I seemed to be living a luxurious life, but I felt like I was in a golden cage. I couldn't call my mother or even my friends. I couldn't drive toward my neighborhood. And I was never left alone. Never. There was always a maid nearby. In the meantime, Uncle Will became less restrained. At times, he hugged me too long, or often brought me breakfast himself, often offering to take me for a walk. I had no choice. He often took sleeping pills, and I slipped them into his tea once. I also slipped it in the guard's tea. When they both fell asleep, I ran cameras into the house to find a secret exit, and I noticed my mother standing at the front door almost all day, every day. She screamed and cried and demanded that he give me to her. What the hell?
You got me after all.
A voice came from behind me. Oh, it's you! My legs were shaking with fear. He walked slowly into the room, sat down, and handed me the pills.
I knew there was a risk, so I drank the other tea, not the one you brought me. Griz, I want to make it clear to you that I want to make your life better. I can get you out of the shit and you'll be happy.
Why do you need all this?
Your father worked for me. He wasn't doing well when your mother was pregnant with you. He borrowed a lot of money from me and didn't have time to pay me back. He died. Then I said I'd marry his beautiful daughter when you grew up, and your mother thought it was all about the looks. I was fascinated by you from the first moment. I knew you'd be mine.
What nonsense! You're old enough to be my father!
So what? You have no choice but to repay his debts. There will be a wedding.
No way! I opened the door with a button. I stabbed the old man in the leg and ran out of there. My mother was waiting for me outside. We left in her old car, and if you think that's the end of it, it's not. He's been looking for me every minute, and my mom and I have to go around in disguises and hide.
Hi everyone, my name is Dickie, and I want to share with you the story of how my family disowned me. I agree that this is hard to believe, and any normal person will first think that this is a monstrous act, that you can't do this, and that only monsters are capable of it. But you know what? All. What is done is all for the best. I saw this for myself, because after this incident, I became a really happy teenager. I was born in a family where there were usually no guests, where the house was always a mess, and usually there was nothing to eat except semi-finished products or fast food. At first, let me tell you about every member of my family. This is my father, Pays, who is older than middle-aged, but still has a strong personality, such an energetic man with a huge mustache. My dad always liked to dress brightly, like a red jacket or a fun hat. My father didn't know where he worked. It was like this all his life. Maybe I don't know where he works, or no one knows, but he was clearly doing something illegal. I wasn't interested in the details, so I just kept out of his business. My mother, Susanna, loved herself, her nails, and her stupid dog, Linda, too much to have time for her own children. I don't remember my mother ever cooking food from the stove. And in general, we only needed the kitchen in the house to eat, but not to cook. If my mother didn't eat, she was surfing the internet or flipping through magazines with a dog in her arms. She didn't work because my father provided for us well enough. I also have a brother, Palmer. He was as dumb as our dog. Palmer looked like the Pope, was the same full and narrow-minded as both parents. I know you can't say that, but it's true. None of my ancestors had even finished high school, and Palmer was almost on the dropout list. It is not clear at all who I went to. I was not like any of these three, either in appearance or character. Thank God, in brain. I was different. Palmer often joked about how I was stupidly thrown and that I was not native. But I was not particularly upset, but on the contrary. As you already understood, I didn't find a common language with my family, so I didn't really talk. Usually, I'd come home from school, lock myself in my room, do my homework, prepare my sandwiches. While I was doing my homework, I would eat a meal, after, or rest, or go for a walk. I had a couple of friends. They were cool guys. One of them I was best friends with. His name is Ryan. This is my best friend, and we lived not far from each other, on the next street. Ryan always helped me with my lessons or whatever. Every time my parents went on a party, he and his mother would leave me at their house so I could spend the night there in peace. I just loved those moments. Ryan's home environment was very different. He didn't have a father, but his cool mom was so kind. When I came, his mother would cook a delicious dinner, meat with vegetables, casserole, spaghetti, or something else homemade. I loved this kind of food, and I was tired of sandwiches for a long time. Ryan's mother was surprised when I told her about my parents, and felt sorry for me. I knew she was right when she said it shouldn't be like this. It would be nice to stay at Ryan's house. By the way, he asked me to stay more than once, and each time I wanted to, but I couldn't. I knew how my crazy ancestors would react. They would make a big deal of it and yell at the whole street that I had been stolen. And then what should have happened? Palmer loved trying on her clothes and putting on makeup without knowing it. I knew it because I saw it. He promised to kill me if I told, so I didn't. Once again, while parents were out, Palmer ran to the parents' bedroom, and this time he's a little over the top. I told you he's a chubby guy, and he's gained even more recently. Anyway, he tore up my mom's Chanel dress, which was super expensive. At that moment, my mother came home, and this idiot ran out to her, shouting that I had torn her dress. My mother believed her beloved son and gave me a beating. I got so that it did not seem enough. After the punishment, I was so angry that I ran into Palmer's room, pushed him off the chair, and started hitting him in the face. My mother ran to our screams, picked me up, pushed me out the door, and said that I was not a child, but an animal. My father came in the evening and gave me a punishment for it. Palmer was an innocent child. I was so tired of the injustice that I started to cry. My parents, feeling sorry for the older one, pointed a finger at the door. The father shouted that I was no longer his son. I ran out of the house and ran wherever I could see. I've never felt this bad before. No, I'm not upset that I got kicked out. I'm upset that everything is so unfair to me. It took strength and patience. I ran, not knowing where. In the end, my feet led me to a familiar house. A house with which I associate only good things. A house where I am warm and cozy, where I am always welcome. "Hi, Dickie. Come in, of course," said Ryan and his mother to me. They gave me a delicious dinner, during which I described the situation. Ryan's mother was horrified, and then made a bed for me in Ryan's room. I lived there for 4 days. On the 4th day, my parents came to my school. Suddenly, my mother and father began to apologize. They asked me to forgive them, offered to buy toys, books, and I did not understand what was happening. I came home in the evening and didn't recognize the house. It was clean, for the first time in my life. My mother did the cleaning herself, cooked dinner, and everyone was at the common table, eating with appliances and treating me. I was alarmed by the behavior, but I ate and went to my room. At night, I went to the kitchen for a drink of water and heard the family talking. Do you realize that we can stay outside, right? Why did your mother choose Dickie and leave him the house as her inheritance? He can kick us out, you know, my mother shouted at my father, and Dad yelled back at her that it was all her fault for giving birth to someone as defective as me. And then it all became clear to me. My grandmother left the house to me, in which we lived, so it is rightfully mine. but I didn't want to live with them. I wanted to live alone now because they were away from me. I took out a recorder and recorded everything my parents said about me, including that they wished me dead. The next day, the police and guardianship authorities heard the recording, and Ryan and his mother were next to me. As a result, my parents were deprived of the rights, even jailed for a while for threatening me, and Palmer and I were supposed to be sent to boarding school, but I didn't want to go there. At this point, Ryan's mother offered to help me and I agreed. She adopted me. After we finished everything, we moved into my big house, and the three of us lived there. Now I had a new family, much better and kinder, just like I wanted. What would you do if you were me? Write your opinion in the comments, put likes, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.